Hi, today's problem and yesterday's problem are going to be used as an introduction generally to ICD-10 CM, how to code an ICD-10 CM. The problems are almost the same with a little difference. Yesterday it was metabolic encephalopathy. You can see the video if you're following chronologically. The previous day is metabolic encephalopathy. And this time, today is toxic metabolic encephalopathy. A little different, but not that much. Okay, so the problem is very simple. They come to you, you're a medical coder, and then a doctor comes to you and says, can you please code this diagnosis? This patient here was admitted to the hospital with toxic metabolic encephalopathy, and I need to build this code. And the insurance company needs the code for toxic metabolic encephalopathy. You're a medical coder, please code it. Okay, so you're faced with a problem. You have to code toxic metabolic encephalopathy. The first thing you have to find which one is the main term or the disease. It's a diagnosis, so it's a disease, something that goes wrong with the body of the patient. So after examining the terms, and with a little terminology, as we explained yesterday, you find that pathy here, pathy means disease condition. And encephalo here means brain. We have put a table this just to emphasize. Encephalo means brain. And pathy means disease condition. This word means that the brain is in a state of a disease condition, right? And now what kind of disease, these two words will explain to you, toxic and metabolic, right? That's the disease that the brain has. Okay, now how do you code it? Once you have identified the main term, which is encephalopathy, you are going to go to the index in the book. There's an ICD-10 CM book. And the first part is an index, and it's listed. It lists all the diseases alphabetically. So we need to find encephalopathy. You're going to go to the E for encephalopathy, right? And this is the path. You have to learn how to follow this, but it's very simple. The first part is, this means go to the index, right? And once you're in the index, you go to encephalopathy. We don't write the whole word, we just go to the E because just to make it short, but you have to go to encephalopathy. Okay, now let's go back to the problem. We already identified this. Now it's toxic and metabolic. Now, if you don't know which one to go first, to the T or to the M, just go in order. First, toxic. So you're here, right? Go to encephalopathy, and then you go to toxic, and then you go to metabolic, and you're going to find a code next to it that says G92. Okay? Now, to demonstrate to you that there are two ways to do the same thing, or there are several ways to do the same thing, we're going to reverse the order. You go to encephalopathy here, 1A. You go to the index. You go to encephalopathy. And instead of going to toxic, the first one, why don't we go to metabolic first? So we go to metabolic. And from there, we go to toxic, and you're going to find exactly the same code, G92. So in this case, the order doesn't matter, right? Whether you go first to toxic and then metabolic or the reverse, you're going to find exactly the same code. Now, in this case, it's even simpler than yesterday because the code G92 has only 3 characters. And that's very easy to check in the tabular. You have to check in the tabular later on. So the second step is to check in the tabular. You go to the tabular, and in the tabular is the second section or the next section of the book, and it's in alphanumeric order by code of disease. So the diseases that are code A something are first, A1, A2, A3, then B, then C, then D, then E. Now we have to go to G, the letter G, and then find a 92. And next to it, you're going to read a description of the disease. That is exactly our problem. It says toxic metabolic encephalopathy. So that's our confirmation of it. and that's how we check that the answer is G92. Okay, now Stephanie is going to do the whole process so you can see it, how it's done actually in the book while I followed her with the camera. Let me point first to the problem. The problem is toxic metabolic encephalopathy. And then Stephanie is going to do first the path 1, which means go. Let me focus on the path 1 here. And you have to learn to read this. The / means go to. So go to, the X means index. Go to index. Then go to encephalopathy. Then go to toxic. And then go to metabolic. And read the code that is right there. It's G92. So you ready, Stephanie? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to encephalopathy. We're in the index and we're going to go to encephalopathy in the E, right? Right. Encephalopathy right there. Now, indented is the next word that we need, which is? Metabolic. No, we're doing the first one, which is toxic first. Oh. Right? Right. So we're going to go to the T. Okay. So we go down. Go down. And we go to the next page. Next page. And then we're going to see. Can you move the book a little bit because I can't get it. There you go. And then we're going to go to, where's toxic? Right here. Toxic, right there. Right? And the next word would be just underneath it, a little indented. It says metabolic. And the code that you get there is G92. Okay? So that is the first path, which we did right here. I'm going to repeat to you. Go to the index. Go to encephalopathy. Go to toxic. And then go to metabolic. And the answer you get is G92. Okay? Now we're going to reverse the words. Okay, so we go first to the index, then we go to encephalopathy, right? Right. And now instead of going to toxic, we're going to go to metabolic and see if we find the same thing. So you go down, right? Down. Here we go. To metabolic, right there. Now it's metabolic. Now, metabolic by itself is G93.41, but we don't want metabolic by itself. We want toxic. So you got to go to the indented 2 items down there. One is drug-induced and the other one is toxic. That's what we want. So the answer would be G92, which is exactly the same as here. You see, we went to the index, then to encephalopathy, then to metabolic, then to toxic, and we got G92. Now, the next step is to check it in the tabular. The tabular is the next section of the book, which has colors on it, and it lists the diseases in alphanumerical order, right? So we're just going to check. Let's show our readers how does it go. For instance, this is G89, right? And then G90 would be this. So you keep looking, and where is G92? G92 right here. So G92 says toxic encephalopathy. It's almost what we want, but what we want is exactly toxic metabolic encephalopathy. But if you read the second line underneath it, can you point to that? It says toxic metabolic encephalopathy. This means that if you find toxic encephalopathy, toxic encephalitis, or toxic metabolic encephalopathy, the code is exactly the same, G92. That's our confirmation that this is the right code. So the code is G92. Okay? And since we're following this, a book that has answers, we're going to prove to you that that is the code that the book gives us. And this is toxic metabolic encephalopathy right there. That's the answer. And we finish this with an invitation to visit our website right here. Thanks for watching.